In thinking yourself better, both individually and culturally, you're thinking yourself separate. But this sense of separateness is not only false, it's damaging, unhealthy, and unsustainable. For they who think themselves Lord of all are slave to everything. And the master is just as much a servant because their condition depends on the other. So what if there were no oil tomorrow? No oil to move our cars, to feed us all year-round tomatoes, to fuel our wars. Without this grease in the machine, the inherent friction of this society, this way of living and this way of destruction, would bring everything to a halt. And life as we know it would collapse in on itself. Without oil, this culture that also deems itself lord of all things natural, uncivilized, clinically and officially out of order, would become powerless. And precisely so, because of the things that are supposedly subordinate. The things it depends on for its mastery. Without oil, no more long-distance travel, commuting, mass production, mass consumption, mass stupidity. No more parking lots paving over paradise. No more grocery chains inducing a state of amnesia, where we forget how to eat and grow food, where we forget that whatever we could need, the land could provide. Without oil, local reality and local experience. If indeed dominant culture would disappear tomorrow, people would die. Especially those whose entire identities and personas depend on and are shaped by modernity and civilization. Especially those who would die for the flag, than what it stands for. These are the victims of symbol, language, and myth. And they would have these motherfuckers on the road instead of these being healthy. But we would once more be aware of the basic unity of organism and environment. We would be able to live in the here and the now. And if dominant culture would disappear, the rainforests, oceans, endangered species, cultures driven to the point of extinction, mountains, skies, streams, they'd all be grateful. I can't really speak for them, but they can certainly communicate their message loud and clear. It's only those that are willfully ignorant of them that do not hear it. That do not hear the fact that 200 species die daily. Or that half of all species will die by the next century. So let me illustrate the story of oil, its production and its use. So this is the year 1000, this is the year 2000, and this is the year 3000. And this is oil as it peaks and as it declines. This is the absurdity of an energy-intensive industrial civilization. Or for that matter, any way of living that's based on a non-renewable resource. It's stupid, terminal, and destructive. Now here is oil as it's being used up. And this line indicates the increase in population growth, industrialization, and the demand for oil. It also reflects our very notion of progress and growth. The idea that you can have cities and cars and food, that you must have cities, cars, and food. It's our very notion of growth and progress, our devotion to economic interests over natural demands and responsibilities. But this line is exponential rather than linear. It goes something like this. We all know there were billions fewer people centuries ago, and billions more species centuries ago. And as civilizations overpopulate, overconsume, hyper-exploit, the crash will happen sooner than later. This exponential line also indicates the pace of devastation wrought by industry, capital, civilization itself. The attitude that the world is not the world, that the planet is not the planet, that nature is not nature, but that life is a commodity, bought and sold. This is the premise of civilization, that life is not a beautiful phenomenon to be experienced, that our bodies, our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, our ecology, the places we live in, on, with, for, are not who we are. This has obvious destructive consequences, not only for the natural world, the only world there is, but also for our personal psychologies. This fundamental misidentification and disassociation is the source of stress, chronic illness, depression, what the Buddhists call suffering, and what the Christians call sin. Because the origin and meaning of sin is to miss the mark, to miss the point, to be alive but not to be living. to be ignorant of the grace of God, to be ignorant of the holy moments in life, to be ignorant of the present. And instead of being in this world, all civilized religions, organizations with a vested interest to control mass psychology, preach is the opposite. They all promote an unhealthy escapism, the delusional misidentification and disassociation. So what happens is nature isn't treated and felt as a thing in itself, but is viewed as a means to an end, and is used, abused, and thrown away. And if we would psychoanalyze civilization as a whole, we'd soon realize that it's insane. It is literally out of touch with physical reality. Civilization is insanity, and religion and business all do their part to reinforce this delusion.